Amazing. Okay, it's 1 o'clock. I'll call the April 4th Board of Commissioner meeting to order. We're going to start out by a prayer from Commissioner Sarkella and the pledge by Commissioner Ballard.
Dear Lord, we thank you for this day, for the opportunity to gather in a free country. We're especially grateful for all that you give us, especially as we enter Holy Week. Allow us to be aware of all the things that you do present us and perhaps give us some time to reflect on that as well. We ask that you be with us during our meeting, give us wisdom and concern for all that we do. And we're especially grateful to serve our neighbors and friends. In your son's name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Leslie, roll call, please.
District 1 Chairman John Black,
Present.
District 2 Commissioner Roger Ballard,
Present.
District 3 Commissioner Gary Heberling,
Present.
District 4 Commissioner Bill Sarkella,
Here.
District 5 Commissioner Christine Lee, here. District 6 Commissioner Evans Ehart,
Here.
District 7 Commissioner John Moody.
Here.
Thank you, Leslie.
Here.
Okay, at this time, if there are no additions or corrections to today's agenda, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved. Support.
I have a motion from Commissioner Ballard, support from Commissioner Heberling to adopt the agenda as presented. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Agenda is adopted. At this time, if there are no additions or corrections to our meeting minutes from March 21st, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Support.
We have a motion from Commissioner Moody, support from Commissioner Lee. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. You would get your correspondence from Jody in an email the other day. This will take us into commissioner reports, and we will start with Commissioner Ballard.
Oh, I attended Evergreen Township meeting last Tuesday. They finalized their budget for 2023-24. They were going to pay off their fire hall yesterday, 2 years early. So they were quite pleased about that. And they've approved a couple of road projects. One is a Shabona Road rebuild, and the other one is some work on Lambton Road. And they are beginning discussion on a 150-year anniversary event to take place sometime in September. That's it.
Very good. Thank you, Roger. Gary?
Yeah, I think you're going to expand a little bit more on it later, Jonathan, but we had a personnel committee meeting today. Two of the agenda items were expedite filling seasonal workers at Worcester Park. And then we also had a memorandum of understanding that we looked at and agreed to. And then also in that meeting, there was a request to fill a juvenile probation officer position, which the current person is leaving the county and took another job. So we approved that and moving that to the finance committee next week, 2 weeks. I'll let you talk about the rest.
Okay. Thanks, Gary. Bill?
Just Port Sanilac, they have a couple applications for the park direct coordinator along with the harbor master. And then they're extending a couple of dates with their music in the park, which will start in early June. That's all I have.
Thanks, Bill. Christine?
On March 22nd, in Brown City, the county DPW staff, the head workers from each town were invited to come. Some of the towns sent representative, and it was very good because they discussed the different resources that they could share with each other and different grants and different things like that. On the 29th and 30th, I attended Elk Township and then Elmer Township on the 30th, and both of them were working on their budget. And that's it.
Thanks, Christine. I myself am going to a Marion Township meeting tonight, and I just want to bring this up to the board's attention. Finance Chairman Sarkella and myself, along with Administrator Roski and Carl Osenkoski, are all going to be meeting with some, I guess,
commissioners from St. Clair County. I believe it's April 27th. We have that planned for. And we're going to go down and meet with them to discuss just a general variety of topics related to county government. Obviously, St. Clair has a lot more economic development than we have here. So we want to have a discussion with them about what role the county played and just get a greater idea of what types of opportunities are available here in St. Clair County. And we'll make sure to give a full report to the board after we have that meeting. That's all I have. Evans?
I attended Lexington Council last week and they elected a 7th member of the board, James Grossock, aka Wimpy, as people who know him because he owns Whippies. They also voted yes to create the social district area in Lexington, which is you're allowed to go into establishments that sell alcohol, bars, and you can get to go drinks and especially marked cups and go outside and select areas from in downtown and businesses again, all within the area. Port Huron has it and it's done well, and Lexington is looking to adopt it. When it's going to start, I don't know, but they voted yes to do it. And also the interim manager that's there right now is now going down to a part-time position. They're still trying to find a manager to apply to fill. So they're still working on that. And besides that, that's it.
Thank you, Evans. John?
I just had the Melvin meeting last night, Village of Melvin. They just did some routine paying of the bills and stuff like that. And they just had one new land use permit that there's a gentleman that's putting a well in and then within the next year or so is hoping to build a house. So that's all it was there. That's all I have.
All right. Thank you, John. Appreciate everyone's commissioner reports. At this time, we'll ask Nathan for his administrator's report.
Thank you. Just a couple housekeeping items. Reminder, next Tuesday, we'll have another meeting, April 11th meeting. So I think we've discussed it. Usually they're only the first and third Tuesdays, but we have these periodically through the year. So we'll have one next week. Also, in regards to that, building will be closed Friday for Good Friday. So I'll get that information out. I know it's posted on the door. We're going to receive, you guys will see there's a resolution that's on the finance committee meeting for another opioid settlement. And just so to dispel any confusion, there was a few different settlements that were, there was lawsuits against for this. So this will be a settlement in regards to Allergen, Teva, CVS, and Walmart. So we've already received about $1.2 million in our previous settlement. This will be about $650,000 additionally. So, and then we're going to work with departments. I've talked to Bryant. I know we've talked to Will Morris at CMH, and we've talked to some of the other folks. I know Commissioner Black was a part of that about a committee in regards to the best use of those funds. So we held a meeting last Friday. Commissioner Ballard was here because of his role with the parks. We talked about, we had our insurance company in regards to events that the parks host and the best way to safeguard ourselves through our insurance providers. So I think that was a good meeting. I think it was well perceived. Good thing was a lot of the recommendations I think we're already doing. There was just maybe some subtle adjustments on things we can do. So Sheriff's Office, I see Lieutenant Moore here. They had their open house event and great outcome. So very good. They had, I think, 3 to 4 people they met with that are potential hires. So that was outstanding. They did something, I commended the sheriff, did something outside the box. Hadn't been done here before. Nobody knew how it would turn out, and it turned out very well for them. So very good idea. Tomorrow I'm going to be meeting with Cole Wood from Lisa McLean's office. He's looking to get some office space here locally. We're going to look at where we could provide that. I think it'd be a great resource to have him here, to have him available to our people. So we're going to try to accommodate that. And then his idea would be to be here weekly, have a set schedule so people could come in and visit with him, talk to him about issues they have. Last thing, talked to you guys previously, but the county video that was created is on the county website now. Shared that on social media. It's out there. I think the video, they did a great job on it. I think it's a great resource for the county. And like I said, it's on the county website for anybody to view. So if people come to the county website, it's right there. And I might see about, there's a tourism website too, see about maybe getting that on there as well. So just to get it out there. So we can.
Aren't you a star in that, if you recall?
Well, yeah, if you call it that. So, but I think it's a good resource. So we'll see about that. All right. Thank you.
Nathan, when I talked to Lisa here 2-3 weeks ago, she was talking about having an office at the Sandusky City Council building. Did that change? It must have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it was confirmed so.
Yeah, they're, I guess, talk to us about the possibility of space, and I think we'll be able to accommodate them. So.
Any further questions for Nathan?
I'd just like to comment that while I was out of town, I had a circumstance we needed a letter of support drawn up immediately for Port Sanilac, because in the transition of having no harbor master, they were applying for a grant and they were looking for a letter from us. And being gone, I was unable to do it, but I got a hold of Nathan, and within a matter of a couple hours, he had everything done and sent on its merry way. So I just want to commend you for that. That really, he makes us look good. So that's what we need.
That's why we hired him, right?
Exactly.
Very good. Thank you for that, Bill. Any further questions or comments for Nathan? Hearing none, we will move on. At this time, it is public comments pertaining to the agenda today. If anyone from the public has any public comments pertaining to today's agenda, now is the time.
I have a question for Commissioner Sartella. Is there any movement at the Port Sanilac Marina on the fixing that electrical that got smashed?
Yes, there's going to be my understanding is a generator will be installed so they can offset anything occurring in the future. That's supposed to start getting done in April, and then they're still waiting for parts for the main unit that sits at the end of 46.
Okay, thank you very much.
Anything further? Hearing none, we will move on. At this time, we'll welcome Doug Sweet, our Drain Commissioner. He's here for the 2022 Annual Drain Report. Welcome, Doug.
Great.
Welcome. Afternoon. I'm gonna go through this pretty quick, so unless you want me to slow down and do the long version. As always, the first couple pages, we put together some pictures of projects we've worked on throughout the 2022 year, so you can kind of see what we do. The next page is going to be an explanation of the 4 different types of accounts we use in our office, and I'll go in depth in each one of those tabs. The next page is just kind of some stats of what we did in 2022. We had no petitions filed. We had no board of determinations or hearing of necessities. We had 2 drain lettings. We removed beaver dams on 4 drains. And we performed maintenance on 31 drains and did spot spraying of brush on 28 drains. We recorded 4 easements on 2 drains last year. And then we had state assistance from MDOT on 5 different drains. Our first tab is our 801 tab. It has every drain that we work with listed, and it has the activity in 2022, and it's our cash on hand, how much money is in each drain or if it has any money. So if you turn to page 86, 87, underneath that 801 tab, you'll see between all those drains, the cash on hand we have is just over $2 million. Up last year from just over $1.7 million. So we're heading in the right direction. In 2022, we did construction maintenance drain assessments. We did 13 of them, down from the year before was 19, for a total of just over $52,000. And then the next several pages is going to give you a list of each township, the drain that was assessed in that township, the amount to the property owners and the township, and the year that was assessed for. It'll have you the drains, villages, cities, and then on page 4, it has MDOT's portion and the Huron Railroad's portion of what they paid on those assessments. Page 5 is going to be the county at large's portion of that almost $53,000. The county's portion was just over $6,000. Our 851 tab is our next tab. That is our debt fund assessments. So we have 110 drains that fell into that in 2022. So that shows the activity of all the drains in 2022. Those drains have ongoing assessments or had an assessment in 2022. So if you turn to page 37 in that tab, 36, excuse me, you'll see we have just over $147,000 in that account. And then the next page is going to give you a list of all 110 drains that we assessed out. It's going to give you the drain name, the years assessed, and the dollar amount that we assessed out. If you flip to the next page, you'll see between those 110 drains that we assessed was just over $1.2 million when we did last year. The next few pages is going to be a list of the townships, the drains that were assessed in that township, the years assessed, the township's portion, and the landowner's portion. And then if you turn to page 12, you're going to see the same as last time. It's going to give you MDOT and the railroad portion of what they paid of those 110 assessments. And then page 13 is a breakdown of all the drains, the 110, the years assessed, and how much the county at large portion was for each drain. So of the just over $1.2 million we assessed out in 2022, the county's portion was just over $194,000. That'll wrap up that tab. Then there's 802. That tab is our revolving account. It has all the drains that were, as of the end of the year, are in the red that we're going to work on assessing out this year. There's 64 drains in there, down from 77 last year. As of the end of the year, we were in the red $321,000. And then our last tab is our 804 tab, which is our maintenance revolving tab. It gives a list of all the drains in the office and how much they have contributed to the 804 fund since that fund was, that account was created. If you turn to page 7 underneath that tab, you'll see that as of the end of December 31st, 2022, we had just under $45,000 in that account. Any questions? Did I go too fast?
No, you weren't quick enough. I do have a question. In the Black
I'll do
River,
better next year.
the Black River Eastern Railway, you got 2022 and 2023. You're going to complete that this year?
That's when the assessment was for the Black River?
Yeah.
Yes, but we have ongoing work on that one, so we'll probably do the same thing. We'll do another project, assess it for a couple of years.
Yeah.
So it's affordable to the townships and the county.
Is part of that because they're putting a new bridge in there, MDOT?
Nope, that's no part of it.
Okay. That's what I was getting at.
Yep, that's fine. Any other questions?
In regards to the beavers,
Yep,
so how often do you have to revisit that? Once you knock them out, is it a reoccurring thing or?
sometimes it can be.
Okay,
Sometimes they get relocated and move on, so.
I know northern counties have a real issue.
Mhm. Yep. Any other questions? The other thing while I'm up here, I wanted to mention, we are applying for a grant for a side-by-side to help do spot spraying of brush. Part of the grant process was we had to come to a public meeting and have it in the minutes that we were applying. If that way, if anybody had any questions, concerns, here was the time to voice them. Is there any other questions on that?
We're planning on putting like a large spray tank in the back with a boom and a wand.
I think so. That's kind of the plan as of right now, but we're still in the early stages.
Is that something that you'd have to get extra equipment to haul around the trailer? Or is that something you already kind of have?
We have a trailer, but the side-by-side would be extra equipment, but it would help us in some of the day-to-day aspect of things.
What organization are you seeking the grant through? Is it the USDA?
Yep. And we're gonna get prices on, I think, a John Deere Gator and a Polaris Ranger is what we're gonna get quotes for.
Okay, very good.
All right.
Any further questions?
Thank you. Thank you. I'll try and make it shorter for next year.
I was just giving
Yeah,
you,
let's narrow that down to 2.5 minutes.
you were pretty quick.
Yeah, have a good rest of your day. That concludes the drain presentation at this time. Is Jim Knight here to give us a presentation about the expansion of Camp Grayling?
Good afternoon. My name is Jim Knight. I'm from Kalkaska County. I'm an elected official in Bear Lake Township. I'm here today to ask the commissioners to join the 56, as you can see on this map, how red it is, 56 government entities that are opposed to the Camp Greenling expansion of 162,000 acres of public land. The public land that maybe the people in this room or maybe you go up to recreate on or possibly even have a place at. The concern is that they're training right now on existing land that they have. And right now they are doing some experimental weaponry testing that's on the 230 square miles they have right now. In the D-Business Magazine article that you see in there, you can see in there that they are subleasing this out for a ridiculous price of $150 a day for 3,000 acres. Colonel Myers has stated in there that the phone is ringing off the hook. And we believe that the plan is that they are going to use this public land to further their endeavors to try to put this defense contractors on our public land to try this with very little or no oversight. Now, I will say this right now, that I can say that nobody that's in opposition to this proposal is anti-military. I think I can probably say that in this room that no one is anti-military. That has nothing to do with supporting the military in this or not supporting it. This is strictly about this proposal. Now, no other state in the United States has given more to the military than Michigan. They have 230 square miles right now to train on. What they're asking for is an additional 253 square miles, making it 483 square miles to train on. Now, within this group, this acreage that they're talking about are 3 watersheds: the Manistee, the Osable, and the Muskegon River systems, along with the tens of thousands of acres that so many of the citizens of Michigan come up to recreate in, whether it be for horseback riding, it could be for hunting or fishing, mushrooming, a number of things. In the proposal that Colonel Myers gave, he contradicted himself at numerous times and said that the public would be blocked off if they were going to be training in these areas. And then by the end of the meeting, he said no one's going to be blocked off. We believe that indeed they are going to be blocked off because it's happening right now on the public land that's leased to them now. So if you want to go hunting that day and you want to drive down to your spot and there's a tank in the way, you're not going down there. Even though they've stated that they're not going to block anybody off, they are going to block people off. So there's going to be another speaker behind me, so I'll wrap it up here and just say we are looking for the support from the commissioners here. So Tuscola County has signed on with us. Huron County is pending. We're not sure where they're going to go on that. We hope they join us. We would like to see Sanilac County join us in this opposition to send the message to the governor and to the state people that are pushing this program to try to take our state land away from us. They have 230 square miles on their property right now, and about 70,000 acres is not even being used. So when Colonel Myers says he needs space, how much space do you actually need if you have 70,000 acres extra that you're not even utilizing? So we believe this is nothing more than a want and not a need. If it was a need, I would not be here. Along with these other government entities and over 30 environmental and government, outdoor groups that are in opposition to this. It's just overwhelming. But there is not one group that is for this, not one. They have not stepped forward. If you would please consider adopting a resolution to oppose this proposal, it would be greatly appreciated. We don't want to keep this pure Michigan the way we know Northern Michigan. Thank you. And someone's going to speak out. I mean, this is Neil Wallace from the Anglers of the Osable.
Called on. It's hard to follow Jim. He knows this stuff in his sleep. So we've been involved in this for some time. We have been in a situation now for months where this decision is going to come at any time. The 230 square miles that they already have is the largest National Guard base in the country. When we've put it to him about the kind of testing and training they want to do and say, why can't you do this on your existing space? He folds back to being very vague. In fact, the whole thing is really reminiscent. I presume you probably know that in this area, this proposal and this expansion is also tied to an intensity of the air guards use of this area that runs right up the coast of Huron. And when you read the reports about what they intend, these two things are going to be tied together, this land and the air intensity. I'm not saying it's going to change the air intensity. I can tell you that my organization, Anglers of the Asab, about 1,300 members from all over the state and all over the Midwest, really. We've been fighting this on a number of angles, but we've also addressed this air intensity proposal. And they had to do what's called an environmental assessment. We have gone through that with our science folks that we have available to us and found a number of inconsistencies and holes that demonstrate just how bad this intensity proposal could be. I think, I don't know that one will stop the other, but I think it's going to slow it down. Again, this is not anti-military. There's an awful lot of ex-military up in the Grayling area because they were up in that camp training or whatever, and they saw how beautiful it was and they wanted to stay. As I drove here today, I was struck by how different your area is than ours. One of the reasons there's so much state land in the Kalkaska and Grayling area is because it's all sand. It's almost impossibly black soil that you have here in places, and it's very fertile. But if you've been up in those river systems, you know it's all sand and nothing grows. So once they lumbered it, a great deal of it became state land. It felt when this was being presented by the colonel that he felt like he was entitled to this land, and that kind of feeling to me is the feeling that if he could do it to us, he could do it anywhere. So if you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
Isn't it also true that it's the largest camp for the National Guard, but we don't necessarily have the largest National Guard?
That's true. Well, the other thing about this is it isn't just Michigan National Guard that trains there. It's guards from other parts of the country, and amazingly, armies and military services from around the world that come to Camp Grayling to use our camp. And some of them don't always end up being friends, which to me is odd, but whatever. The other thing I would say is we're in a position right now where we think this decision could come any day. We do know that this expanding map that Jim and his team have worked on has made a difference in Lansing. It got the governor to send a representative up to Grayling to see the area and to talk with us and a number of people to better understand what was going on. So it is really important, I think, for the local communities to hang together and to let the state know that they can't just impress upon us their will.
So that the state is going to make this decision in Lansing?
Yes, the decision's actually made by law by the director of the DNR. Now, originally they called this a lease. A number of us got together and got down on the research and figured out that they didn't have the authority to do a lease. And in front of the State Appropriations House Committee about 4 weeks ago, the acting director of the DNR admitted that she didn't have the authority to do a lease. And then she said, well, so I'm going to do a use permit. And we're now addressing that. I think she doesn't have the authority to do a use permit, frankly. But the thing is, this camp started out as, if you can imagine, well, you guys can imagine better than I can, but started out as 13,000 acres was granted by one of the lumber barons to be used exclusively by the Michigan Guard, but it has expanded over the years. And they've tried to expand at different times and they've been pushed back, and other times they get away with it. But it's almost seems more like it's just about control than about really what their need is. But we've tried over and over again. The first meeting I attended on this was May 31st of last year. And I said, why can't you just schedule it differently and use the acreage you're not using already? Well, no, I need this. And it's so vague, it feels like that old thing about once the camel's nose gets under the tent wall, pretty soon you're sleeping with a camel. We just don't know the nature and extent of his use, and we they're so vague, if you know what I mean. We're just not
They
trusting.
like it that way.
Huh?
They like it big. Jim, how many acres did you say they have
62,000 acres.
they're not using?
No, that they're not using it.
So it's about 70,000 acres that are not using.
That would seem like that'd be enough, right? For
You would think. Like I say, it's nothing more than a want and not a need. And we wouldn't be here if it was a need. Like Neil was saying, these leases they're talking about, this is lease, if we were going to lease it, it would be a 20-year lease. That's a short-term lease, a short-term lease of 20 years. Essentially, that's happened in the past. And once it's granted, it never goes back to the public. And that's history. Not 1 acre of public land has gone back once it goes into a lease to the National Guard.
I'll tell you another thing too, on the levels, I probably, my place up there is probably 14, 15 miles from Levels, but there's literally just outside of town, a bombing range where they drop ordnance. And certain times of the year in August, I think it is,
August.
the windows shake. People have to board their dogs because the dogs will go nuts. It can get pretty bad up there. And we don't want to see an expansion of that either.
If you're saying this is a want more than a need, in the kernel, you said is telling you it's more of a need. Why are you thinking that it's a want more than a need?
Yeah, so the lead that he came across with was that we want to do electromagnetic testing and training. And we tried to nail him down on what that was, and he wouldn't tell us. So we went out and did the research. And this stuff's kind of scary. I don't know if you're all familiar with the Havana syndrome, but it started in Cuba, where U.S. personnel who were in the embassy there started having all these health complications. And this also occurred in other embassies around the country, including Russia, Moscow in particular. And the notion, the working theory of this is that it's electromagnetic pulses. At the very first meeting, I happened to ask him, I said, how do I know that this activity you're going to be doing isn't going to interfere with my internet and my cell phone? And he said, I've got this stuff called geofencing, and I can electronically fence off an area so that I can protect all that. And I said, well, why can't you use that plus your empty land? Why can't you use that and just schedule it so that you don't have to expand? He said, because I can't. And it's the kind of flippant response, if you will, that just isn't trusting.
Well, I think it's the military. I think they're not going to be able to tell you everything.
There's no question about that.
Yeah.
I've actually said
They're not going to be able to tell you exactly what they're doing.
I understand that. I get that. In fact, I said probably as a citizen generally, I hope that they're going to be testing things that they can't tell me about.
And with the way that military is advancing their everything, their weaponization, their everything they do in the way that they do it, there's really not, they can't let secrets out. They can't say what they're doing. So I guess
No question about it.
until I hear their side of what this, I would not be in support of this.
I'll tell you 2 things about that. So one, they have done, Colonel Myers went around and did shows in townships and counties all over that region. And not one community has bought into their proposal. The other thing is they already have bases in other parts of the country where they are not near civilian populations. If you think about Utah or Nevada, Arizona, they've got bases out there where they can go and do this already. The difference is that Colonel Myers isn't there. And this is his pet project.
But maybe Michigan's terrain, what the area is more favorable for them to be able to do their testing or their training in that area, not out in the rocky areas. And
Except that they're already doing it there. That's sort of the point. I think it's because it's his camp, it's his command that he wants to be able to put that feather in his cap.
Yeah, I'll just add to that too, that there are bases around the country right now that they're doing this, and much smaller bases, I might add, around the country. They're doing this electromagnetic warfare training in bases all around the country. But these are areas, and our concern is that
this geofencing, does it really work? Is it going to stop the signal? When I first saw this map, this is a half a mile from my house. I can tell you during Northern Strike, my satellite dish was interrupted 3 times in a weekend when that was going. So I do know that electronic warfare was going on because my satellite dish does not go out except when it's raining, and it was not raining. Also, there were numerous cell phone calls that dropped during that weekend when they were training up there in August of last year. So it was going on already, unbeknownst to us. Like Neil stated, it's actually a perfect weapon because you can't locate from the source. Our enemies have it, we have it. We're not saying it shouldn't be used. It just shouldn't be used by us. And the environment where they're talking about, where we have 3 river systems and tens of thousands of people come up to recreate on. That's what we're saying is you can take this and go train in another area and use this stuff. But please don't do it here because we don't know what it's going to do to the generations behind us that's going to be exposed to this.
And one of the things that Colonel said to us very early on is, I'm going to be able to control this. Less than a month later, in violation of their existing agreements, there were 2 or 3, was it 3? Large camouflage float rafts going down the Manistee River with 50 caliber machine guns mounted on the front of them, right by people canoeing and fly fishing and kayaking and all of that. So the story there is he couldn't even control that from happening. It's much less likely that he's going to be able to control it.
Yeah, what Neil's talking about was in my township, and I got calls on this, and the pictures were sent to me. Unfortunately, we don't have those pictures here today, but what Neil's talking about, there was a group from Ohio, the Guard were up there, and they were training up there, and they decided to put in at the Manistee River. And they floated down with 7 rafts, 63 guys, belt-fed machine guns and their M16s going down the river, training in a training op. Those pictures were taken by one of my constituents, and they were out on their deck having a toddy, and all of a sudden here comes these rafts down the river, and they were just smiling and just looking at everybody. 7 rafts went down, 63 people. And Colonel Meyer's response after this made the news up there, Colonel Meyer's response was, well, they shouldn't have been there. That was unauthorized. And what we found out was it was authorized. It wasn't supposed to go down the river at 4 o'clock. It's supposed to go down the river at 12 o'clock when no one would see them. So the deceptiveness from the camp commander is in question in my eyes. That's my personal viewpoint on is we are told one thing and we find out another. And like Neil just said, if he can't control things the way it is now, and by the way, I got more stories of how that went down with helicopters, Chinooks going 150 feet over people's houses on the river, that my constituents are part of the training op. And they didn't sign up for that. They didn't buy their places up there to have the military come over and harass them and see how low they can get above their houses. This actually did happen. And this constituent of mine went to the Air National Guard and said, why are you over my house? We're doing low altitude training that day. 2 Chinooks, those are the big ones. And he said, why are you there? He said, because we were given a map and we were told we could train there. So Colonel Myers, even though he stated in this proposal that they're going to stay 1,500 feet away from any body of water, and here they are with the rafts in the water, and here this guy's place is right on the Manistee River. Now these rafts, like I said, Neil said, this is right in the holy water of the fly fishermen field. This is very expensive property there. There's a reason why people buy there. It's not the fact that it's there to use for the military to use, especially at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And there are numerous areas that they can do this in. They just pick the
And understand that the communities up there not only support the military, like I said, a lot of them are ex-military, but we've lived with them. We've done our best to learn to live with the military being there because we understand the importance of it. But he's got plenty. He really hasn't been able to demonstrate the need for it. In fact, the very first presentation, it's got 162,000 acres with the map up there. And we said, well, but you're here where by state law, you're not allowed to be. Yeah, the gal that did that map for me wasn't real good at maps.
Well, I do not want to see our natural resources taken up by this,
Yes.
but I would love to hear the other side of it before I was to go forward with this.
I understand. And we've done our best to sort of give you a flavor for what he's had to say.
Right.
Yeah, thank you.
But unfortunately, you could pick what you want us to hear and what from him. Then, I need to see both sides of the story before I can make up a decision.
I understand exactly what you're saying. I do. Thank you.
I have a good question, Pete.
Yes.
What?
No.
I can't answer.
No, we're gonna move on here. Appreciate the presentation.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for sharing. At this time, we're gonna move on to interviews for the Sand Lake Parks and Recreation Board. Is Joe Allen here?
No, I did talk to Joe over the weekend and he couldn't be here today.
Okay, I thought that might be the case.
Yep.
James Bowerman, Jim? Good to see you.
I guess I'm applying for a 3-year term on the Parks Board. I've already been here for 30 years. I come on in 93 as the drain commissioner and been reappointed several times since. And so we've got a lot of big projects going on, a lot of improvements to the park. There was 192 sites, I think, in Forster Park when I first come on. The infrastructure is in terrible shape, and thanks to the people of this county for giving us a millage, we were able to go out and get grants. First project we got a grant for was a new bathhouse in Forster Park. And then we started developing the infrastructure of it and have been developing it up right until a couple of years ago, putting in 50 amp service and everything. We have Evergreen Park now developed through a grant and also with Lexington. And so it's a lot of interest. And I serve now as the chair of the Buildings and Grounds.
Any questions for Jim? Jim, we appreciate your service to your community.
Joe, thank you.
I'm gonna say this last name wrong, Meta Silence here?
Meta
Silence. Sorry. I give it my best shot. Welcome.
All right, I'll answer.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so I didn't realize this place would be so popular.
Oh, this is nothing.
Yeah.
Usually there's no open seats.
So I don't know if you guys saw my letter of interest when I had submitted it. I've been a resident of Sand Lake County pretty much my whole life. I grew up camping. My family and I are seasonal at one of our parks, but we do have another camper. We actually have 2, so we do travel quite a bit with that one. We do go to Forester as well. In other places, when this opportunity arose and it was brought to my attention, I thought that it would be an awesome opportunity for me to bring, other ideas that we see at other campgrounds, things like that. I and my family have donated in the last couple of years a lot of time and resources to Evergreen being a seasonal camper there. And I would like to do that as well in other ones if given the opportunity to represent the board. I don't know what else to say.
What do you think you could add? What do you think, let's say Forester Park, what would you bring there if you could?
So honestly, with Forester, and so I have a lot of friends.
You're at Evergreen, right?
Yes.
Okay.
How'd you know?
Well, you said it.
You said.
Did I?
Yeah.
No. So I do have a lot of friends that are seasonal there as well. They feel like there aren't things, yeah, they have the lake and they have the playground, but as far as like things for children, there aren't a lot of activities or things like that. That's one of their biggest complaints. I feel like if we could bring in some ideas and resources to that, I think that would help them. I feel like I have children. I mean, I don't know how many of the board members have younger kids. I have been to a couple board meetings and it does seem like there's a older audience, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I just, so and from what I've heard from people is that that's one of the biggest complaints is there's not a lot of things for kids or, things like that for the community. And one thing that I really like about our parks and recreation is that you don't have to have money to enjoy our parks. Like, you can go walk the beach. You can enjoy that. You can go to Evergreen. You can enjoy the pond, the parks, fish, whatever. When we did the the face painting and things like that. We had so many people from the community that weren't even camping that weekend. It was great. I don't know if you guys like a little kid with a dirty face, but I do. It's a lot of fun. And so that's one of the biggest things that would be rewarding, is to give back to those that maybe necessarily can't camp in our parks, but they still get to enjoy those resources.
Very good. Any questions? Seeing none, we appreciate you being here today. Thank you. Thank you. This time, Jim Perpney. Jim, good to see you.
Good to see you again, John. I know at least in passing most of you on the board, but I'll give just a quick background. I was a county employee from 1982 until I don't look that old, do I, Gary? From 1982 till 1990.
Did I give you the right answer?
Recently retired from St. Clair County Sheriff's Office after 29 years, total 35 years law enforcement. And then from the park standpoint, where I'm coming from, my interests and passions have a lot to do with non-consumptive use. I was in contact with Commissioner Sarkella here a few months back. Big piece of property was up for sale on Lake Huron. It's like, boy, it's a shame. There's 27 acres there that's going to turn into a subdivision. And we kind of made a run at it through the Thumb Land Conservancy to say, is there a way that we can acquire that land and use it in perpetuity for some sort of recreational opportunity, outdoor opportunity, not necessarily camping, but hiking and birding and cross-country skiing, and just to have open land, vacant land available for the public to use. Parks and Rec in the county did a tremendous job with this millage, opening up that Evergreen Park, making it what it is now, which is tremendous compared to what it was when I was working here, when it was just a 2-rut road that ran off of 53. But I also think there's an opportunity for Parks and Recs to develop other uses for outdoor recreation. 3 days ago, before, just actually on my way to the post office when I got the letter that I was invited to come here today, my wife and I were driving by the Tri-City landfill, and there's all those ponds on the west side of Ruth Road. It's a tremendous birding area. And somebody that works there called them and said, hey, we would like to take some of our birding friends and go back in there and enjoy that. Well, I got to run it by corporate. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. That might be a tremendous opportunity for the county to partner with an organization like Tri-City to say, let's use that. Let's advertise that. Let's bring people into the area. We go birding. We take trips. We spend money in local restaurants and and lodging, all that kind of thing, because of opportunities that present themselves. We went to Nebraska 5 years ago to see the sandhill crane migration. There are lots of other bird brains out there that do the same thing. And so from my standpoint, those are the opportunities I think that we could really expand upon, build upon what we already have with the existing park network, but also expand opportunities for those other maybe non-camping, maybe non-traditional parks and recreation things. So that's kind of where I think that's where my passion would be if I was given the opportunity to serve on the Parks Board.
Sure. Any questions for Jim? Appreciate you being here today.
Thanks, folks.
Appreciate everyone who showed up to interview. That will take us into appointments to standing committees. At this time, I'd entertain a motion to enter the 4 names in the nomination.
I'll make that motion.
Support. So we have a motion and support to enter these names in the nomination. Can I get, Roger, can you close nominations with your support? Guys, motion to close nomination?
Oh, yeah. Motion to close.
Okay. So we have Joseph Allen, James Bowerman, Nita Silence, and Jim Turpney entered into nomination, and we will use our ballots to vote. Did you seriously? Yeah. Your dad is in the room. They're probably getting blasted radio wave. Probably.
Okay. So there are 5 votes for Joe Allen, 7 for Jim Bowerman, 3 for Maida Silence, and 6 for Jim Turpinning. So the 3 appointed are Joe Allen, James Bowerman, and Jim Turpinning.
Okay. Thank you, Leslie.
Very welcome.
We appreciate everybody showing up today to interview and taking the opportunity to be involved in St. Louis County government. For anyone who wasn't appointed, I encourage you to continue to look at other opportunities we may have to serve on board.
Thank you for your consideration.
Okay, this time we will move on to our St. Louis County Jury Board. I'll entertain a motion to appoint Janet Stanley for a term expiring 4/30/29.
Support.
I have a motion from Commissioner Lee, support from Commissioner Moody. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Janet Stanley is appointed. Is Janet here today?
No.
I don't think so. Okay. Moving on, there are no county appointments to boards and committees or chair appointments. That'll take us into general resolutions. Before we jump into resolutions, especially the one related to the Camp Grayling expansion, I'll open it up to a discussion for the board to have. The Camp Grayling, the folks that gave that presentation today, they sent us the information. We added it to the agenda for everyone to have an opportunity to hear what they have to say. So if the board wants to have a discussion about it, we may. If someone wants to make a motion about it and motion the resolution, we can do that as well. But I don't know if anybody want to have any discussion.
I really feel firm that we should have more information before we do this.
Okay. I did as much research on this as I could. I certainly see Commissioner Moody's point about getting the military side of it and truly understanding the issue. I looked on there's some information on the Michigan State website I read, but I wasn't able to find anything of real substance. Most everything was fairly vague. It's really all I could find. So.
Chairman.
I mean, I do not want to see our resources up there interrupted by this, but I really want to know their side of it. Is this something that's a need more than a want?
Well, I think in any time you get into those scenarios when someone wants something, they may call it a need, right? And so it's flushing out what is need and what is necessary. And I don't know that we would ever get to the bottom of that. We could attempt to. I think the only other thing you could really, I don't know what else you would suggest other than to contact the National Guard themselves and ask for their side of it and see if they provide something. And this could be referred for a couple of weeks while that attempt is made. But this is just questions for the board.
Well, I'm going to be go ahead.
We're having a board discussion at the moment.
I'm going to be the forever pessimist because I don't trust the government. And these people were here basically told us that they were very vague. You just admitted the research you've done. So I appreciate.
I'm not saying that.
I don't want to take our natural resources and turn it in when they've already got 740,000 acres they're not using now. And I was reading the handout, there's 56 government agencies opposing them doing this. Somebody has done the research before it got to us. So I think we need to do more research. I'm not so sure going to the military, they're going to give us any more information they've given some of these others. So John, I appreciate what you're saying. I do, but they got to tell me why they need more. And there's a lot of things going on here they're very vague about. And when people are vague with you and can't give honest answers and go into detail, that makes me all the more the pessimist.
Well, maybe they need to be that vague. That's just,
Well, I don't know if I fully agree with that.
I do not want our resources taken advantage of. But if the military needs something, I'm gonna be behind them 110%. I'm not.
And all their local governments are on board. They don't want it as well. That's pretty much like all their local governments that it affects personally.
Right.
It doesn't affect us.
Yeah, I don't know which one of these gentlemen was Jim or what is, that, you know, we've got places out in Arizona, a place where there's no people forever, you know.
Has anybody on the board had any phone calls or contact from their personal constituents related to this issue?
No.
Anything, I mean, I'm not telling you have.
I don't think our constituents.
I don't
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's up there.
I don't think you know about it.
Yeah, I think the only tie-in that we really have in this situation is, well, there is the tie-in with the airspace issue, which this board has already vetted out. Commissioner Sarkella and Commissioner Ballard and myself met with the Air National Guard about their proposed changes. It would be, not knowing a ton about it, but from what I've seen so far, it almost seems as though there's a tie to this to potentially trying to get, you know, 5th generation fighter aircraft in Selfridge Air Force Base. It seems to be a driving force here. Clearly, the counties and municipalities within that area are opposed to this issue, and that's their choice to be so. So the question becomes, what does Sanilac County have to be involved in this? Well, we have a lot of, I personally recreate in that area myself. The information that I read suggested that those trail systems would remain open and usable, that they would attempt to do the same thing they always do, which is to try to notify the public of, you know, the fact of what they're going to do. But that, we know how that is. I mean, we have a difficult time communicating with our community. I can't imagine how difficult it is for them to let the community in general know what they're up to. So,
I had a personal experience up there with them during an elk hunt and ran into a circumstance where there were obviously tank tracks in the area where we were hunting. And it was discerning enough to the group I was with to say, we're going to move out of this area. Because we didn't feel you wanted to come around a curve on the road and run into a tank that's out there. And, you know, not knowing what they're up to at that particular time, but that was an area that was open, you know, to the public, but still, it was discerning enough to make us say, okay, we're going to go somewhere else.
yeah, and it would be somewhat shameful for people from our area that do recreate up there to have to constantly wonder what they're going to run into when they go up there.
And if
You
it
know,
pushes people away, it's gonna take money that's coming into that county
Yeah,
away.
yeah.
the people that go up deer hunt and the people that
I'm
go
not
on.
for people losing
And I
money.
agree 100% with everybody, what you guys are saying, but I still would like to hear the other side before I made a decision on this. I mean, I would hate for us to make this decision and it's something that is a very a need for them.
So does the board have consensus that it's reasonable for us to reach out to Camp Grayling and ask for information that they'd be willing to provide and refer this resolution for 2 weeks to the next BOC meeting?
Are we gonna have some questions for him?
I mean, if Commissioner Moody, if you have specific questions, you certainly could ask those. I mean, I just want to have a general overview of what they want to discuss.
I don't want vague answers from you.
Right. Well, and I guess if you get vague
Yeah.
answers, well, then you know.
You guys brought up some very specific questions. I think those are some of the questions we want to ask.
In your packet, sir, I know I'm not supposed to speak, in your packet.
Well, I asked you a question.
Oh, thank you. In your packets, there on the back page, somewhere in there, there are links that recorded meeting with Colonel Meyer. So you can see for yourself. Just go by going to the YouTube video and you can actually see these meetings. All these meetings were taped. And in that packet that you have, there's hyperlinks to those. Camp Grayling, Martha Doobie videos. She recorded all of these. You can clearly see for yourself just exactly what the Colonel is saying. So if you want to invite him down here, I think that might be a waste of time. That's your call. But if you want to check those videos, you can see that for yourself.
Okay.
When's this gonna be voted on? That's the,
It's
Any day. They've been telling us that for several months now. But one thing after another comes up. They have problems about the sort of questionable legality, as I talked about before. And if I may, sir, I'd say, I think you've made their arguments. Perhaps even better than they have.
Yeah.
They really have said, we're the military, trust us.
Yeah.
he does a little thing where he said, he says, I'm not going to get this right, but his opening line and his closing line is always, my charge is to see that not one soldier's blood gets dropped on the ground. Part of our group is the former deputy commander of Camp Grayling, who said, if I thought this was a genuine need, if I thought this would save one soldier's life, I'd be in favor of it, and I'm not. There's another gentleman that's been very instrumental in our group. He's a Otsego County commissioner. That's Gaylord, basically. He did 2 tours, and he's missing an eye, and he is a big part of the leadership on this thing. Obviously, he's all in as far as a military person's concerned, but he's like, this isn't right.
He was damaged by a suicide bomber. So that, he's with us all the way. Right now, the status is on this thing is, I was told about a month ago by the deputy director of the DNR, that they are going to be talking to the tribal people, which they are talking to right now. And we have not heard anything from the tribes, but they are certainly looking into the tribal people and some of the burial grounds or somewhere along the line of where the Indians have a vested interest. So they are meeting with the Indians right now. I think this is what's delayed this decision. I think it's because the tribal people are talking to her and they're very much opposed to this.
Mr. Chairman, I would highly recommend we get with somebody from that has a say in this. They can make a decision and give us honest answers right away.
Okay.
I find it interesting. We tried to give some land for one of the water supplies at one of our parks. If we did a conversion of any recreational land over to any other use on any future grant applications, we're automatically docked 50 points, which virtually makes it impossible to get a grant because you won't have a high enough score. And yet they're going to take how many thousands of acres?
Well, and clarify, Roger, those are DNR grants.
DNR grants.
We're attempting to get, but the DNR pegs you on if you take recreational land out of recreational use.
It's conversion of land. Yep.
Well, in the interest of moving our meeting along, I think we're at the point now where someone either needs to read the resolution and put it on the floor for potential passage, or I need a motion to refer this for 2 weeks while we seek more information.
That'd be you, Bill.
Well, I don't know if a couple of weeks is going to allow us time to gather more information. You know, they've obviously made a strong presentation to us today. And I certainly respect your concerns from the other side of the fence as well. However, for the sake of time in regards to our meeting, as well as moving forward, we do have a lot of on our agenda. I'll make a motion that we read this resolution.
Okay. You want to read it, Bill?
Sand Lake County Board of Commissioners resolution to oppose the Camp Grayling expansion. Whereas Camp Grayling is asking for a 20-year lease of additional land from the people of Michigan through the Michigan DNR for military training activities, significantly expanding the current area used for this purpose in northern Michigan. Whereas northern Michigan relies on the recreational opportunities presented by their beautiful rich forests, pristine rivers, and open farmlands, and the people of northern Michigan want to retain what is left of its rustic and natural outdoor playground atmosphere for the enjoyment of its citizens and visitors. Whereas the proposed expansion will disrupt the peaceful enjoyment of the natural resources owned by the people of Michigan, reduce the effectiveness of the Pure Michigan campaign, reduce tourism dollars to community businesses, and create even more hardships for its citizens. Whereas the Michigan National Guard's usage of our public land has already created contamination of the area groundwater and has already been poisoned citizens for years without giving the community a plan for cleanup. Whereas the proposal increases use within the Manistee, Muskegon, and Osable River watersheds, thus increasing the possibility of contamination in the Great Lakes, since the Manistee and Muskegon rivers both flow into Lake Michigan. The Osable River flows into Lake Huron. Whereas the unnatural noise level of training is tolerated currently, any expansion of the ground and air usage will create a much larger distraction from the serenity of Pure Michigan, driving away citizens and visitors that love their community and the peaceful enjoyment of nature. Whereas the proposed expansion of Camp Grayling onto DNR lands does not support the mission statement of the Michigan Department of Natural Resources, we are committed to the conservation, protection, management, use, and enjoyment of the state's natural resources and cultural resources for current and future generations. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Sanilac County Board of Commissioners hereby opposes the proposed expansion of Camp Grayling. Be it further resolved that the Sanilac Board of Commissioners directs the clerk to forward a copy of this resolution to Shannon Lott, Director of the Michigan Department of Natural Resources, this county state senator and state representative at Gretchen Whitmer.
Okay, we have a resolution on the floor. Is there support?
I support.
Okay, who said that first?
Here, give it.
Okay.
You don't
So I have a motion read by Commissioner Heberling, or I'm sorry, Commissioner Sarcella, supported by Commissioner Heberling. Is there brief discussion?
Yes. I know I said earlier to get someone in here from Camp Grayling. But I think we've got to vote on this and support this. We're going to be one of what, 56, 57 counties. It will play out along the way, whether we support it or not support it. I think we need to take a stand to support it. Because I think in 10 years from now or 10 years from now, when our grandkids are going to be using the parks up there and going up there and they can't use them, and they think, what in the world did you guys do? There's got to be another option.
Well said, Gary. Any further discussion related to the resolution?
I just feel that we need to have more information before we do this.
Anything else? Leslie, roll call, please.
Commissioner Lee,
Yes.
Commissioner Sarcella,
Yes.
Commissioner Moody,
No.
Commissioner Ballard,
Yes.
Chairman Block,
Yes.
Commissioner Ehart,
Yes.
Commissioner Heberling.
Yeah.
Resolution's passed.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate the information. Okay, at this time, we have a resolution authorizing entry of participation agreement and partial settlement of the national prescription opiate litigation and entry of state local government interstate agreement concerning allocation settlement proceeds.
You want that one read as well?
Well, just read the top portion of it if you would.
Whereas Sanilac County filed a lawsuit to address the public nuisance that is the opioid epidemic, which named among other companies the following four defendants, settling defendants, Teva Pharmaceuticals Industries Limited, Allergen Finance LLC, CVS Health Corp, and CVS Pharmacy Incorporated, and Walmart Incorporated. And whereas the settling defendants have negotiated proposed national settlement agreements with the state attorney general and the plaintiff executive committee, designated negotiating committee that represents approximately 4,000 local governments that have brought lawsuits similar to Sanilac County's lawsuit, whereas the pro settlement contains significant equitable and monetary relief, including agreement to pay up to $3.34 billion over the next 13 years by Teva, up to $2.02 billion over 7 years by Allergen, $4.9 billion over the next 10 years by CVS, and $2.74 billion within 6 years by Walmart. Bulk of each of these payments will be dedicated to funding abatement and prevention strategies associated with the opioids public nuisance,
That's probably good, Bill.
et cetera, et cetera.
I gotta save this voice for the rest of the agenda.
It's only another page and a half.
Yeah, a fine print.
Support.
Thank you.
We have a resolution from Commissioner Sarcella with support from Commissioner Ballard. Is there discussion related to the resolution for opioid litigation? Hearing none, Leslie, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Heberling,
Yes.
Commissioner Ehart,
Yes.
Chairman Block,
Yes.
Commissioner Ballard,
Yes.
Commissioner Lee,
Yes.
Commissioner Moody,
Yes.
Commissioner Sarcella.
Yes.
Okay, resolution is passed. Thank you, everyone. That will take us down into committee reports, and we will start with Commissioner Moody.
I have none.
Okay,
Didn't have any since the last meeting.
we got all these committee assignments spread around.
No, I just want to touch back on the other thing from my last report is that I did give a letter of support to the interim manager of Lexington for a grant for the marina through the DNR. So I did help her with that. So hope to make our marina more fancy. So
It's already pretty nice.
yeah, we want the best.
Yeah, well, can't argue with that.
Yeah, that's all I gotta say.
Thanks, Evan.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a few things. So after our last BOC meeting, we had a planning commission meeting where we discussed the guidebook. Got some positive feedback from the planning commission. Also, what was nice, when I got up after that meeting, I ran into a township supervisor that I was talking to, And he indicated he was very happy that we were putting a guidebook together and he wished it was something the county did 10 years ago. And he brought up some of the issues that we consistently hear from our small municipalities is they don't have the resources to bring this stuff forward. So I talked to Nathan. We have applied for the Eagle grant. We did, again, the state of Michigan has a grant available for us to pay for the production of the guidebook. So we're pursuing that and hopefully be able to fund it through that. Also, just to talk about planning things that the county has been doing on top of the guidebook, we've already done a webinar this year on wind and solar development with Dr. Sarah Mills from U of M. So if anybody's ever looking for information related to those topics, I believe that webinar is something. Is that something we have on the county website, Nathan?
It was.
Because it's YouTube and it is, I think our guidebook is going to roughly be kind of a paper version of what that was. And if anybody wants more information about the information the county is providing, I think that YouTube video would be a great resource for that. And Nathan, just if it's not on the county website and if it was something that would be easy, because I think we look at what the federal government has done. There's a lot of funding for alternative energy development. So I think we're going to see more pressure in that area within the county in the next 5 to 10 years. I know the universities are saying that every municipality in the state of Michigan will be approached for wind and solar at some point. So the goal is to be prepared, get your ducks in a row, be informed and have ordinances prepared. So that's something that we're moving forward there. Just to kind of go a little further on what Gary brought up in personnel, I think this should be covered. Is we have memorandums of understanding with certain departments within the county that we feel need to rehire employees quickly. And we came to the conclusion today in personnel that our parks department is one of those entities. We're there serving constituents 7 days a week. We got to have boots on the ground to keep the grass mowed and keep everything moving. So what the personnel committee did today is provided a recommendation for memorandum of understanding that would provide parks the opportunity to backfill positions during the peak months, which are April to October.
April through October.
And so that would provide them an opportunity to refill those positions or seek out those seasonal employees. And then also within that time span, they would be able to backfill full-time positions that may become vacant during that high pressure season. Right. So the reason I'm covering this in great length today is that Roger, you guys are feeling the pressure at parks to get some stuff moving. Right. So the intention is for that to land at finance for immediate approval in 2 weeks, which essentially means, if it was to pass, it would be completed. So if anybody has any questions or concerns related to it, the next 2 weeks are your time frame to look into that. So seem to cover that.
Yeah,
okay. That concludes everything I have for committee reports.
Commissioner Black?
Yes.
If you don't mind, I did look on our website. So that is what you were asking for. That planning and zoning webinar is on there, along with the links to the MSU guides is on there. So if somebody goes to the county website and then they go to the planning commission, it's under the links on the planning commission.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Nathan.
Yep.
So again, just trying to provide those resources and talking to your constituents within your districts, letting them know that those resources are on the county website. They can view them at their leisure. So that's all I had. Christine?
Okay, I'm going to stand up. It's Child Abuse Awareness Month. I got my shirt on. I am setting up, with the Santa County Council on Aging to tour the PACE Center, and we're looking at June. So I already talked to the PACE Center, and I'd like to take that board down there to see what there's offered and see the building and the facilities. And Richard Hall said that maybe we can use one of their buses to do that with. And then the third thing I would like you to check, you said you're having a meeting with St. Clair County. Yep. I know St. Clair County is a storm-ready county, and maybe you can check to see what it all involves with being that.
Okay. I will get that. I will ask that question.
That's all I have.
Okay. Thank you, Christine. Bill?
Nathan and I attended or participated in the Life Cycles of Tourism presentation through MSU. And he didn't mention in his report, I think it was so riveting that he wanted me to bring it up. We were kind of texting back and forth during what we did get through it. The presenter was ill, so he obviously was not functioning on all cylinders, but we did get some really good information on, sitting on the Ag and Tourism Board with MAC. I think it's important that, we try to share those resources, see what we can come up with. And then MAC meeting was yesterday, Ag and Tourism. They had a presentation from MSU Extension, a planning and zoning specialist. So there's a lot of discussion in regards to obviously around the state with the windmills. And right now the big push is dealing with solar. And so I think this county here, we're a little bit ahead of the curve with some of that. Ironically enough, a couple of the counties actually oversee some townships ordinances and enforce them because the townships don't, in the more rural areas, if you can imagine more rural than we are, don't have the resources to even do that. Don't have an administrator or a zoning person in regards to that. And then one thing I picked up is Consumers is looking at targeting 200,000 acres in the next 10 years for their solar panels. And obviously all of that is being driven from the political side of things. So they're working on, the big push with that meeting yesterday was really in regards to how to help, like the book we're talking about, how to help the townships and everybody else be prepared for when this starts coming down the pike, that they'll have some things in order. And then lastly, some discussion yesterday from the what's going on in Lansing, the Open Meetings Act. There's a bill out there that hasn't been introduced yet, which is going to potentially allow boards like us to have participation through Zooming or whatever else, as long as there is a quorum present. So as an example, for me being absent last meeting, where I was, if I could get connected, I would be able to participate as long as we had a quorum
Would you
present
still be able to vote?
and still be able to vote. Yeah, so not just participate, but be able to vote.
Because currently you can participate, you just can't vote.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that hasn't come out of committee yet, but they expect that to be done. There's just so many other things going on there right now that some of those things, whether it's dealing with Camp Grayling or whatever, has kind of been pushed back a little bit.
There's been some big changes in Lansing this year.
Yeah, well,
I'm still trying to figure that out.
So that's all I have.
Thank you, Bill. Gary?
Yeah, first of all, Chairman Locke and Bill, thank you. You covered the planning, which I'm part of that committee, both Chairman and I are, and how this booklet came about and how we got to hear both sides of this. John and I are in the planning committee. We put together a steering committee, which consists of a number of people around the county. And where that derived from is we're putting together a new master plan. I think we've talked about that several times in our meeting. So that said, I think the group that we have as for steering committee and our planning committee, I think they've done an excellent job. I'll leave myself out of it. And what we're trying to do is focus on what's good for our county 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now. And I think they've done a fabulous job. So we got another meeting coming up. We've got transportation yet to finish up as far as the master plan. And then as far as Parks and Recreation, we have a meeting tonight. And I thought Jim Barman did a great job of explaining over the past 30 years what the Parks and Recreation has done and what they've accomplished. And again, I guess I'm privileged and happy to serve on that committee also. And Roger, I know you've got a big part of that. And I'm happy that we've seen our parks grow and they really become a great asset for our county. So that's the end of my political agenda today.
Thanks, Gary. Roger?
Last Tuesday, I had a Sand Lake County Mental Health Board meeting. It was one of our shortest meetings. The director was gone and basically we just approved all our normal department reports. Like Gary said, tonight the parks meet. We're still awaiting word or release of funding, I should say, for the Evergreen Grant project. I hope to see that in April. The state legislature has to give final approval and the governor has to sign it. So I'm anxious to get started on that and get it out for bid. They keep dragging their feet. It'll probably be next year before it gets done, unfortunately, but that's kind of the way it's gone the last 2-3 years. So that's it.
Thanks, Roger.
Oh, one other thing, we advertised for help at the parks and we had a tremendous response, very good applicants for help for the seasonal positions and the office manager.
So is that 2 points of good news we've heard today on finding employees? Well, the tide is finally turning.
Yeah, it seems to.
Well, that's good. That's positive. You guys should have an open house.
What, for parks?
Yeah.
We don't need any more help now.
I like this.
Yeah, go ahead, Christine.
In Trudy's office, she has these nice booklets. It's a directory for services for senior citizens. I'll pass there and one down there. And she's got a whole box full of them. You can take them back to your meeting places for the townships and stuff where seniors gather and stuff and spread this information. We need to help our senior community out.
There are a lot of services in this county that not everyone know exist, and so continuing to educate people about what's available will be helpful. I went up and got a handful of them myself. I'm gonna get distributed today, so. Okay, anything else for committee reports? I appreciate everyone's reports. We will move on. There's no unfinished business. That will take us into new business. And we will start with FA 045-23, approval of 2023 current claims.
Satellite County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the payment of current claims for 2023 identified on the accounts payable report dated March 28, 2023 to the general bank account in the amount of $373,941.82.
Support. We have a motion from Finance Chairman Sarkella, support from Commissioner Ehart. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 046-23, budget adoptions, amendments, appropriations, and transfers.
Satellite County Board of Commissioners hereby approves amendments, transfers, and establishes the following accounts as listed.
Support.
I have a motion from Finance Chairman Sarkella, support from Commissioner Lee. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 047-23, authorization to post and fill office manager position, Parks Commission.
Satellite County Board of Commissioners hereby authorizes the Parks and Recreation Board post and fill the Forester Park Office Manager position at a pay grade 3.
Support. I have a motion from Commissioner Sarkella, support from Commissioner Ballard. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 048-23, authorization and award to purchase vehicles.
Satellite County Board of Commissioners hereby authorizes and awards Berger Chevrolet Incorporated, Grand Rapids, Michigan, the bid for 5 Chevrolet Tahoe 9C1 vehicles, 4 to be assigned to the Uniform Services Division and 1 to the Drug Task Force at a cost of $40,881 each, for a total cost not to exceed $204,405 with funding for 4 vehicles from the Sheriff's Office vehicle line and funding for 1 vehicle from the Drug Task Force line.
Support.
I have a motion from Commissioner Sarkella, support from Commissioner Moody.
That's fine. Yeah.
Okay. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 049-23, authorization and award to purchase vehicle equipment, Sheriff's Office.
Satellite County Board of Commissioners hereby authorizes and awards Arrowhead Upfitters Incorporated, Lapeer, Michigan, the bid for 4 sets of vehicle equipment to outfit 4 2023 Chevrolet Tahoe 9C1 police package vehicles to be assigned Uniform Services Division at a cost of $13,934 each, for a total cost not to exceed $55,736 with funding from the Uniform Services Vehicle Equipment Line and Commissary Fund.
Support.
I have a motion from Commissioner Sarkella, support from Commissioner Ehart. Is there discussion?
What happens when we discard the old vehicles and they have this stuff already in them? Because we always buy new when we buy a new car.
Because the vehicle changes.
What's that?
The vehicle changes each time. The year models are different.
Yeah.
So the
The
tubes and stuff don't fit from
Oh,
one
okay.
vehicle to the other.
All right. I was going to ask that many times, never did.
Planned obsolescence.
What's that?
Planned obsolescence.
Yeah.
And then they always used to have Fords, and now we're going to the.
Purposely
Chevy.
nice got the warehouse. You gotta buy new stuff.
Yeah.
It's just a question.
That's what.
Yeah, charging things, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Is that 5th vehicle gonna have the same equipment as these other 4 and just got left out, or?
So the story with that is that was a canine that's got to be fitted for the canine vehicle through the drug task force. So
But I thought it was already equipped, wasn't it, Mike? No.
no, these ones aren't equipped. That's why they got the Arrowhead. They got the quotes from Arrowhead. This one won't be equipped either, but
Mike might be able to address that.
Yes, that one is not to be included. They will have to either go through the process.
Oh, yeah, you did say that.
To do it, and I know that was going to follow up with a couple of the outfitters to see what options were out there.
You did say that in the last meeting.
Okay, it's a lot different with the canine.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion related to FA 049-23? Hearing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 050-23, approval of law enforcement agreements, Sheriff's Office.
Sanilac County Board of Commissioners hereby approves contractual law enforcement service contracts for a full and part-time position between the Township of Worth and the Sanilac County Sheriff's Office, and further authorizes the adjustment of the full-time equivalent list to reflect an increase of 1.5 FTE, and if the contract sees the FTE list will be reduced by 1.5. Further authorizes the board chairman sign the necessary agreements.
Support.
We have a motion from Commissioner Sarkella, support from Commissioner Lee. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 051-23, authorization to purchase firearms.
Sanilac County Board of Commissioners hereby authorizes the Sheriff's Office trade in defective firearms and purchase a different model through CNP distributors at a buyback amount of $200 each for a total cost of $14,000, and a cost purchase new firearms at an amount of $45,207.75 for a difference not to exceed $31,207.75 with funding from ARPA.
I have a motion from Finance Chairman Sarkella. Is there support? Support. I have support from Commissioner Ballard. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 052-23, approval of agreement for professional services.
Sanilac County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the agreement for professional services Sanilac County Guidebook for Alternative Energy Development at a cost not to exceed $15,900 with funding from ARPA funds for immediate approval.
Support.
I have a motion from Commissioner Sarkella, support from Commissioner Lee. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving to NFA 003-23, acceptance of the 2022 annual drain report.
Sanilac County Board of Commissioners hereby accepts the 2022 annual drain report as presented. Support.
A motion from Commissioner Sarkella, support from Commissioner Heberlein. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. That will conclude our new business. At this time, we will entertain general public comments. Are there any general public comments today?
Just to thank you for supporting that resolution. And I would like to ditto that. Thank you. We've been working hard on this, and it's a step forward for Michigan. I understand, respect your opinion.
Yeah, I'm not against the process. I'm against not hearing both sides.
And again, if you look at the videos on all the meetings were taped, they're on YouTube. That would give you the indication, but thank you to all the commissioners.
And just a third on this, thank you for taking the time to listen to this presentation today. I wish I had something positive that Colonel Myers could say that for John's sake, but really, I believe he's really failed miserably in trying to get this across to people, especially the people in northern Michigan. What we're saying, we said to numerous townships and counties, it's just been repetitive for us. We're now into 10 months of this. And thank you so much for your support.
Thank you. Is there any further public comments today? Seeing none, see no need for closed session or closed session minutes. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion from Commissioner Lee, support from Commissioner Ehart. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned at 2:28.